The bright morning sun cast long shadows across the International Space Academy's landing pad as the silver transport ship descended from the clouds. Students gathered at the viewing windows, pressing their faces against the glass to catch a glimpse of their newest classmate. Among them stood Tom Chin, a second-year sound engineering student who happened to be there only because his morning coffee had spilled on his shirt. The ship's doors opened with a soft hiss, releasing a shimmer of purple mist. Through this ethereal fog stepped a figure that made everyone catch their breath. The alien student, Lyra, moved with an otherworldly grace. Her skin had a slight lavender tint that seemed to pulse with its own inner light, and her hair floated around her head like silk underwater. But what caught Tom's attention most was the clear crystal pendant that hung from her neck, occasionally catching the sunlight and sending rainbow patterns dancing across the walls. "Welcome to Earth," announced Director Martinez, stepping forward to greet their visitor. "We hope your journey from Harmonia was comfortable." Lyra bowed slightly, her movements as fluid as water. "Thank you for accepting me into your academy," she said, her voice carrying an unusual musical quality that made several students lean forward to hear better. "I look forward to learning about human science and culture." As the welcoming party led Lyra toward the dormitory building, Tom noticed something odd. Every few steps, she would touch the crystal at her neck, and her face would show a brief flash of concern. Being naturally curious, his mother would have called it being nosy, he couldn't help but watch more closely. Later that day, Tom discovered that Lyra had been assigned to the room next to his. Through the thin walls, he could hear strange, melodic sounds coming from her room. Sometimes they sounded like singing, other times like the ring of crystal glasses being played with wet fingers. During the first week of classes, Lyra proved to be an excellent student, asking intelligent questions and showing particular interest in Earth's music theory classes. But Tom noticed that something wasn't quite right. Each day, her lavender skin seemed a little paler, and the natural glow that had surrounded her upon arrival grew dimmer. "Are you feeling all right?" he finally asked one day after their shared advanced acoustics class. "You seem different from when you arrived." Lyra's hand went to her crystal pendant, a movement Tom had now seen dozens of times. "Earth's atmosphere is different from home," she explained carefully. "My personal resonator is helping, but—" She trailed off, looking uncomfortable. "You're what?" Tom asked, his sound engineer's curiosity piqued. "This crystal," she explained, holding up the pendant. "It produces frequencies similar to our crystal forests back home. All Harmonians need these frequencies to stay healthy." She paused, then added quietly, "But it's not working as well as it should." Tom watched as she swayed slightly, catching herself against the wall. The crystal in her hand gave off a weak, purple glow, but it flickered like a dying light bulb. "Maybe I could help," Tom offered, his mind already racing through everything he knew about sound waves and frequencies. "I mean, I am studying sound engineering, and if it's about frequencies—" Before Lyra could respond, her crystal flickered one last time and went dark. Her eyes widened in alarm, and she slumped forward. Tom barely caught her before she hit the floor. As he called for help on his communicator, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that he had just stumbled into something much bigger than a simple case of homesickness. Whatever was wrong with Lyra, it was getting worse, and somehow those strange frequencies from her home world were the key to everything. The medical bay of the International Space Academy was unusually quiet that evening. Tom sat next to Lyra's bed, watching the strange medical devices that the doctors had attached to her. None of them seemed to be helping. Her skin, normally a beautiful shade of lavender, had turned almost gray. "Her vitals are unlike anything we've seen," Dr. Sarah Wong told Tom, frowning at her tablet. "It's as if her cells are losing their rhythm." She adjusted some settings on one of the machines, but nothing changed. Tom held Lyra's crystal pendant in his hands. It remained dark and lifeless, just like it had been when she collapsed. He remembered how she'd mentioned the crystal forests of her home world, and an idea started forming in his mind. "Doctor," he said suddenly, "can I try something?" When Dr. Wong nodded, Tom pulled out his phone and opened his sound generation app, a tool he used for his sound engineering classes. He started playing different frequencies, watching Lyra closely for any reaction. Nothing happened until he reached a specific high frequency. Lyra's fingers twitched slightly, and her crystal pendant gave off a tiny spark of purple light. "Did you see that?" Tom almost jumped from his chair. He adjusted the frequency slightly higher, and the crystal glowed a bit brighter. Lyra's color improved just a fraction. Dr. Wong rushed to check her readings. "Whatever you're doing, it's helping. Her cellular activity is increasing." But after a few minutes, the effect began to fade, even though Tom kept playing the same sound. Frustrated, Tom tried different combinations of frequencies, but nothing worked as well as that first time. As he was about to give up, he heard laughter from the hallway. Some students were walking past, joking and having fun. To his surprise, Lyra's crystal flickered again. "Wait a minute," Tom muttered. He pulled up a recording he'd made at last week's Academy concert. As the sound of applause and cheering filled the room, the crystal began to pulse with purple light, stronger than before. Lyra's eyes fluttered open. "Tom," she whispered weakly. "I'm here," he said, leaning forward. "How do you feel?" "Better, when the sounds play," she said. "But not enough." Her eyes closed again, though her color remained slightly improved. Tom turned to Dr. Wong. "I think I understand part of it now. It's not just about the frequency, it's about the emotion behind the sounds. The crystal forests on her planet, they must record more than just sound waves." Dr. Wong looked thoughtful. "The Harmonian Embassy mentioned something about their crystal forests being ancient. They called them living libraries, but wouldn't explain further." Tom played more recordings from his phone. Crowds cheering at sports events, children laughing at a park, a standing ovation from a theater performance. Each one made the crystal glow, but the effect never lasted long enough. "We need something stronger," Tom said, running his hand through his hair. "Something more real than recordings." He looked at the crystal pendant, remembering how it had reacted most strongly to the live laughter in the hallway. Dr. Wong's eyes lit up. "The Academy's spring concert is tomorrow night. If what you're saying is true about emotional sound waves, a live performance with a real audience," Tom finished her thought. "It might be exactly what she needs." He looked at Lyra's pale face. "But will she last that long?" The doctor checked her readings again. "With these frequencies you've discovered, we can keep her stable. But Tom," she added seriously, "if this doesn't work." Tom nodded, understanding what she left unsaid. He had less than 24 hours to save his friend's life, using nothing but the power of human emotion and sound. Looking at his phone, he started making calls. This concert needed to be bigger than anyone had planned. News spread quickly through the International Space Academy. Students and teachers rushed around the concert hall, setting up extra chairs and sound equipment. Tom hadn't just invited the usual crowd. He'd called every music club, dance group, and performance art student on campus. "How's she doing?" Tom asked Dr. Wong as he checked the sound system. Through the window of the medical bay next door, he could see Lyra's still form. "Stable, but weak," the doctor replied. "The regular playing of your recordings is helping, but she didn't need to finish." They both knew recordings weren't enough. Professor Martinez, the head of the sound engineering department, walked up with a group of students carrying strange-looking devices. "We've modified these sensors to measure emotional energy in sound waves," he explained. "If your theory is right about human emotions affecting the frequencies, we'll be able to see it." Tom nodded, remembering his discovery from yesterday. It wasn't just random sounds that helped Lyra. It was the joy in children's laughter, the excitement in applause, the pure emotion in live music. The crystal forests on her planet weren't just recording sounds, they were storing feelings. As evening approached, people began filling the concert hall. Word had gotten around that this wasn't just any performance. It was about saving a life. The usual capacity of 300 had swelled to nearly 500, with students sitting in aisles and standing against walls. "Tom," a voice called out. It was Sarah from the dance club. "We've got 30 dancers ready to perform. The drum circle is warming up outside, and the choir's doing vocal exercises." He checked his phone. Messages kept coming in from more performers wanting to help. The whole academy had come together in a way he'd never seen before. Using a special stretcher designed to keep her stable, Dr. Wong's team carefully moved Lyra into the concert hall. Her crystal pendant, still dim, was connected to Professor Martinez's sensors. The medical equipment showed her life signs were dangerously low. "Everyone ready?" Tom asked through the microphone. The crowd hushed. He took a deep breath and explained Lyra's situation, how her species needed emotional sound frequencies to survive, and how human emotions seemed to create similar patterns to her homeworld's crystal forests. "We're not just here to perform," he said. "We're here to feel, to laugh, to cheer, to celebrate life itself. Every genuine emotion you express could help save Lyra's life." The concert began with the Academy Choir. As their voices filled the hall, Professor Martinez's sensors started picking up readings. The crystal around Lyra's neck flickered weakly. Then the drum circle joined in, their rhythms matching the choir's melody. People in the audience began moving to the beat. The dancers swept onto the stage, their movements full of joy and energy. More and more students joined in, clapping and swaying. The sensors' readings kept climbing. Lyra's crystal glowed brighter. "Look!" someone shouted. Lyra's fingers were moving slightly, tapping along with the rhythm. The performance built to a crescendo. The choir sang louder, the drums beat harder, and the dancers moved with even more energy. The audience stood up, clapping and cheering. The whole room pulsed with genuine human emotion and joy. Lyra's crystal blazed with purple light, brighter than Tom had ever seen it. Color rushed back into her skin, and her eyes fluttered open. The crowd erupted in celebration. The sensors were going crazy, showing emotional energy readings higher than anything they'd recorded before. Professor Martinez was frantically taking notes, but Tom didn't care about the scientific readings anymore. Because Lyra was sitting up now, her eyes wide with wonder, watching hundreds of humans creating the very thing her species needed to survive. Pure, authentic emotional energy, expressed through sound and celebration. Her smile said everything. They had found a way to keep her alive, and in doing so, discovered something amazing about humanity itself. The day after the concert, the Academy's science labs were buzzing with activity. Professors and students crowded around screens displaying the data from last night's performance. Tom sat with Lyra, who looked healthier than she had since arriving on Earth, as Professor Martinez explained their findings. "These patterns are fascinating," the professor said, pointing to a complex graph. "When humans express genuine emotions through music and celebration, they create sound frequencies almost identical to those from the Harmonian crystal forests." Lyra nodded, touching her now brightly glowing pendant. "On my world, we believe our ancestors encoded their strongest emotions into the crystal forests. But we never knew other species could create these frequencies naturally." Dr. Wong rushed into the lab, waving her tablet excitedly. "You need to see this." I compared Lyra's cellular readings from before and after the concert. "The difference is incredible." She displayed side-by-side images showing Lyra's cells. Before the concert they had been dull and sluggish, but now they pulsed with healthy purple light. "But there's a problem," Lyra said softly. "The effect is already starting to fade. Like with the recordings, it doesn't last forever." Tom had been quiet, lost in thought. Now he looked up. "What if we tried different types of human gatherings? Last night was mostly music and dance, but humans express emotions in many ways." Over the next week, they conducted experiments. They started small, with a comedy night in the student lounge. 20 students laughing at jokes created a different frequency pattern than the concert had, but Lyra's crystal still responded positively. Next came a surprise birthday party for one of the professors. The genuine joy and excitement generated yet another beneficial pattern. Even a heated debate in the philosophy club produced useful frequencies. Passion and intellectual excitement, it seemed, were just as powerful as happiness and celebration. Every human gathering creates its own unique emotional fingerprint, Professor Martinez explained during a presentation to the Academy Board. And somehow, all of these patterns match different frequencies found in the Harmonian crystal forests. But the most surprising discovery came during a simple lunch break. Tom and Lyra were sitting with a group of friends, sharing stories and laughing about nothing in particular. Suddenly, one of the monitoring devices started beeping. "Look at these readings," Professor Martinez exclaimed, rushing over. "They're stronger than almost anything we've seen, except for the concert." "It's because it's real," Tom realized. "We're not trying to create emotions for an experiment. We're just friends enjoying each other's company." The Academy Board was impressed enough to approve a larger study. They set up a series of events: sports games, movie nights, art shows, and more casual gatherings. Each one helped Lyra in different ways, and the data they collected proved that humans were unique in the galaxy, the only known species that could naturally produce the frequencies Harmonians needed to survive. "We need to document everything," Lyra said one evening, as she and Tom reviewed the latest data. "This could help so many of my people. There are other Harmonian students on Earth who are probably struggling like I was." Tom looked at her healthy purple glow, so different from the pale, sickly color she'd been just weeks ago. "We'll need to organize more events, bigger ones, and reach out to other schools with Harmonian students." "Already working on it," said Sarah, the dance club leader, walking into the lab. "We've got 5 more performances planned, and the drama club wants to do a special show." Lyra's crystal pulsed brightly as she smiled at her friends. What had started as a desperate attempt to save her life had turned into something much bigger. A discovery that could change the relationship between humans and Harmonians forever. "You know what this means, right?" Tom grinned. "We need to start planning the biggest event yet." The others looked at him curiously, and he explained his idea. An event that would prove once and for all that humanity's emotional energy was more powerful than anyone had ever imagined. The news about humans being able to help Harmonians spread like wildfire. Within days, the International Space Academy started receiving calls from universities around the world where other Harmonian students were studying. Another Harmonian student in Tokyo just reported the same symptoms I had, Lyra told Tom as they walked to the lab. Her crystal glowed brightly against her lavender skin, healthy from all the human interactions she'd been having. "And there are 3 more in London who are struggling." Tom wasn't surprised. They had learned that Earth's atmosphere interfered with the Harmonians' natural frequency absorption. Without access to their crystal forests, they would all eventually face the same problem Lyra had. "Professor Martinez," Tom called out, seeing their teacher in the hallway. "Have you seen the latest data from the cultural events?" The professor nodded excitedly. Indeed, the readings from yesterday's Indian wedding celebration were extraordinary. The mix of music, dance, and family emotions created completely new frequency patterns. They had discovered that different human cultures produced unique emotional frequencies. A traditional African drum circle generated different patterns than a Chinese New Year celebration, but both helped Harmonians. Even quiet events, like a Japanese tea ceremony, produced subtle but powerful frequencies. "The Harmonian Embassy just called," Dr. Wong announced, joining their conversation. "They're sending a scientific team. They want to understand how humans are doing this naturally." Later that day, Tom and Lyra sat in on a video conference with Harmonian students from other universities. The screen showed faces in various states of health, some pale and weak, others looking better after trying what the Academy had discovered. "The football game helped a lot," said Zara, a Harmonian studying in Brazil. "All those fans cheering together. My crystal has never glowed brighter." "The meditation group at my university had a similar effect," added Kin from India. It was different, more peaceful, but just as powerful. Lyra shared their findings about different cultural events. Every human gathering creates its own special frequency. We found that the more genuine the emotions, the stronger the effect. The Academy became a center for studying human harmony and resonance. Scientists set up special equipment to measure emotional frequencies at various events. They discovered that even small gatherings could help. A family dinner, friends watching a movie, children playing in a park. One evening, as Tom and Lyra watched a sunset from the Academy roof, she asked him something that had been on her mind. "Do you realize what this means for our peoples?" Her crystal pulsed softly with the calm happiness she was feeling. "For centuries, we thought we could only survive near our crystal forests. But humans, you create these frequencies just by being yourselves, by feeling and sharing emotions." Tom smiled, remembering how far they'd come from that first desperate concert. "Maybe that's why your people were drawn to Earth in the first place. Something in you recognized what humans could do." The door to the roof opened, and Sarah burst out excitedly. "You two need to come quick. The embassy just made an announcement." They rushed to the main hall, where students were gathered around screens showing the Harmonian ambassador. His crystal glowed brilliantly as he spoke. "In light of recent discoveries at the International Space Academy, we are proud to announce a new era of human harmony and cooperation. Cultural centers will be established in major cities around Earth, where our peoples can interact and share emotional frequencies naturally." The hall erupted in cheers. Lyra's crystal pulsed in sync with the joy around her. "That's not all," Sarah added with a grin. "Wait until you hear about the global festival they're planning. It's going to be the biggest multicultural event in history." Tom looked at Lyra, who was practically glowing with excitement. What had started as a solution to save one student's life had grown into something that would change both their species forever. And somehow, he knew this was just the beginning. The main auditorium of the International Space Academy was packed with reporters, scientists, and diplomats from around the world. On stage, Tom and Lyra prepared to present their research findings about human harmony and resonance patterns. "Ready?" Tom asked, noticing Lyra adjusting her crystal pendant nervously. It glowed brightly, feeding off the excitement in the room. "Thanks to you, I've never been healthier," she smiled. "Let's show them what we discovered." Professor Martinez stepped up to introduce them. "Today, these students will present groundbreaking research that could change our understanding of both human emotions and alien biology." Tom started their presentation by showing videos from the past few months. The concert that first saved Lyra's life, the sports events where crowd excitement generated powerful frequencies, quiet library study groups producing gentle but steady resonance patterns. "What we've discovered isn't just about sound," Lyra explained to the audience. "It's about the unique way humans express emotions. No other known species in the galaxy can naturally create the frequencies our people need to survive." They displayed their data on the giant screen. Graphs showed how different human activities produced various beneficial patterns. A child's birthday party created bursts of joy frequencies. A graduation ceremony generated waves of pride and accomplishment. Even a quiet moment between friends produced steady pulses of comfortable resonance. "The most amazing thing," Tom continued, "is that humans do this without any technology. You create these life-giving frequencies just by being yourselves, by feeling, by sharing, by living." A Harmonian scientist stood up. "But how can we be sure these frequencies are the same as our crystal forests?" Lyra activated a special display showing two patterns side by side. "This is a recording from our oldest crystal forest," she said, pointing to one pattern. "And this is from last week's International Student Festival." The patterns were nearly identical. Gasps filled the room. The evidence was undeniable. "We've also found that human emotional frequencies can be stored," Tom added, revealing their latest discovery. "We've developed new crystals that can capture and replay human emotional energy, just like the ancient forests on Harmonia." They demonstrated by playing back stored frequencies from various events. Each crystal glowed with different colors, depending on the type of emotion it contained. Bright gold for joy, deep blue for peaceful contentment, vibrant green for excitement. But there's something else, Lyra said, her voice growing serious. Something we just confirmed last week. She showed a map of the galaxy. Earth appears to be the only planet we found where the dominant species naturally produces these frequencies. Out of thousands of known worlds, only humanity has this gift. The room buzzed with excitement. Reporters frantically took notes as Tom and Lyra explained what this meant for future human-Harmonian relations. We're already seeing changes, Tom said. Harmonian students are no longer struggling on Earth. Cultural exchange programs are expanding. And most importantly, we're learning from each other. Lyra nodded. My people have always preserved emotions in our crystal forests, but humans show us how to create these emotions naturally, how to live them every day. As they finished their presentation, the audience erupted in applause. Lyra's crystal pulsed brilliantly, absorbing the genuine enthusiasm and joy filling the room. The Harmonian ambassador approached the stage. This research will be the foundation of a new partnership between our peoples, he announced. The Harmonian Council has just approved funding for a permanent research center here at the Academy. Tom and Lyra looked at each other, remembering how this all started with a desperate attempt to save one life. Now their discovery was bringing two species closer together than anyone had thought possible. As reporters crowded around them asking questions, Lyra whispered to Tom, "And wait until they hear about tomorrow's announcement." Tom grinned. The global festival they had planned would show everyone just how powerful human emotions could be, and it would change everything. The day of the Global Harmony Festival had finally arrived. Central Park in New York was transformed into a massive celebration of human and Harmonian cultures. Thousands of people from around the world gathered under the warm summer sun, with stages and performance areas spread throughout the park. Tom stood at the main control center, watching screens showing celebrations happening simultaneously in other cities: Tokyo, London, Rio de Janeiro, Mumbai, and dozens more. Each location had its own unique way of creating emotional frequencies that made Harmonian crystals glow. The readings are off the charts, Professor Martinez exclaimed, checking the monitoring equipment. We're recording emotional frequencies we've never seen before. Lyra rushed up to them, her crystal blazing with brilliant purple light. She looked radiant, healthier than ever before. You need to see this, she said excitedly, leading them to a quiet spot overlooking the festival. Hundreds of Harmonians were scattered throughout the crowd, their crystals glowing with different colors as they experienced various human emotions. Near the main stage, crystals pulsed gold as people danced to music from around the world. By the meditation garden, they shimmered with peaceful blue light. At the children's area, they sparkled with the pure joy of kids playing. Look at my people, Lyra said softly. For the first time since leaving our crystal forests, they feel completely alive. The festival wasn't just about music and dance. Every human culture had brought something special. Japanese tea ceremonies created subtle, deep resonances. African storytellers generated waves of wonder and excitement. Indian classical dancers produced complex, beautiful frequency patterns. Tom, Lyra, Sarah called out, running up to them. The Harmonian Embassy is ready for the big announcement. They want you both on the main stage. As they made their way through the crowd, people stopped to thank them. Students from other universities who had helped spread their discovery. Harmonian visitors who could now safely study on Earth. Scientists who had helped develop the new storage crystals. On the main stage, the Harmonian ambassador stood with leaders from Earth's nations. The crowd fell quiet as he began to speak. Today marks a new chapter in the history of both our peoples, he announced. Thanks to the discovery made by two students who dared to think differently, we now understand that humanity possesses a unique and precious gift: the natural ability to create life-sustaining emotional frequencies. He held up a newly developed crystal, larger than the personal ones Harmonians wore. With this new technology, We can store human emotional energy for use on our home world. But more importantly, we've learned that our peoples are connected in ways we never imagined. The human leaders stepped forward to make their announcement. Earth will become home to permanent Harmonian communities, they declared. Our cultures will grow together, learn from each other, and create something entirely new. The crowd erupted in cheers. Every Harmonian crystal in the park blazed with light, creating a spectacular display of colors that lit up the evening sky. Tom turned to Lyra, remembering that first desperate day when she had collapsed in the academy hallway. "Did you ever imagine it would lead to this?" he asked. Lyra shook her head, her crystal pulsing with happiness. "You humans surprised us. We thought we needed our crystal forests to survive, but you showed us something more valuable. That life itself, when lived with open hearts and shared emotions, creates the most powerful frequencies of all." As the festival continued into the night, with humans and Harmonians celebrating together under the stars, Tom realized they had discovered more than just a way to help Harmonians survive on Earth. They had found a connection between two species that went beyond technology or science. It was about emotions, about sharing feelings and experiences, about the simple joy of being alive. And as he watched the celebrations happening around the world, Tom knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful harmony between their peoples.